Naveen, thanks for joining us. First, tell us a little bit about the strategy at ITIS and really what you look at as a fund when it comes to investing.
At ITIS, we come from the school of thought that growth and investing in growth is a sustainable way to grow capital in the medium to long term. Now, the issue around growth is most people don't go after it. The reason is, as humans, inherently we want to be buying cheap, right?
Yeah.
That's what we feel will lead to wealth creation. But the problem in India, especially our markets, is when you are buying cheap, 99% of the time there is a reason it is cheap, right? It's predominantly got to do with corporate governance. And in many cases, it's got to do with the business fundamentals, where the return that the business is able to generate is not greater than the cost of capital itself, is because inherently you have to pay up to own growth. If you look at it from the traditional measure of investing in PE, it's not going to work because PE is backward looking, growth is forward looking. So you can't combine the two and say that I will not pay up to own growth, right? So we come from the school of thought that we invest across market caps. We are a multi-cap focused fund. We look at cash flow growth. Again, it's important to quantify what is growth. You can have revenue growth, you can have EBITDA growth, you can have bottom line growth. All that is good. But unless and until it translates into cash flows, for us, it doesn't make too much of sense. So that's the school of thought that we ascribe to. And the reason it is sustainable as far as we are concerned is because you're able to manage downside volatility a lot better.
It's a fair point, but how does the market value growth, Naveen? Because is there a contradiction there given what we're seeing currently?
Absolutely. So, see, the thing is, fortunately or unfortunately, we as investors use the word market, right? So, if I was to give it in the real estate world, right, let's take Bombay as a geography because everyone is aware of Bombay across India, right? Now, if I say the market of real estate in Bombay has stagnated, it's not the true picture because how Nariman Point has performed versus how Bandra has performed versus how Worli and Powai has performed are four extremely different geographies. Similarly, if I say how the market is growing, clearly in the last 4 years, Indian markets, the growth rate has been tepid, right? But within that broad market, you have certain companies that are continuing to grow their cash flow, not in the last 1 year, but I'm talking about a 3 year CAGR of an excess of 18 to 20%. Now, those are the pockets we want to be going after. Obviously, they are selective, and which is predominantly the reason we run only one fund, and you will find only 20 to 22 companies in our fund, right? So I'm not saying that there are 150 opportunities like that, right? They are few and far between, and that's the reason this kind of investing is a lot harder than it is when you're in the inside.
Want to give us examples of the kind of stocks you're thinking about?
So, for example, there are 4 to 5 broad themes that we own that we think are worth owning even today, albeit at higher valuations as well. Right. One is domestic pharma with more of an API manufacturing aspect to it. Now, pharma, unfortunately, is a vast sector that is clubbed into one mishmash. You have the likes of Sun, Lupin, DRL, which have large product portfolios with a very big US generic exposure to it, right? Now, these are the companies that are first affected when there is consolidation, like what you saw in the US 4 years back, and there was pricing pressure. So I always say this, it's counterintuitive. Large cap pharma has much more risk than mid and small cap pharma. Right? Normally, investors are used to thinking of it the other way around, right? Large cap companies are safer, lower volatility. In pharma, that's not the case. You have niche manufacturing companies. So there's a space called CDMO or CRMO, which is called contract development or contract research and manufacturing, right? Very simplistically put, it is what Infosys and TCS was to the US in the 90s, is what these players are to the Fortune 500 pharma companies today. And now they are receiving an added fillip from companies moving away from China.
How does this work when it comes to the current IPO craze, particularly when it's to do with tech companies, because they clearly function on a different business model to what we've otherwise seen in traditional companies?
So the thing is, see, clearly, I think investors need to be evolving as well, right? There's no point of crying saying that these are loss-making businesses. There is a value in the platform that they have built. And I think investors of yesteryears need to agree to that. And I am one too, right? We've been investing over 14 years. We've been used to seeing businesses a certain way. You can't cry saying that these are loss-making businesses and they are doubling. That's the reality. Now, the question is, what is the true value of a platform and what is a made up value of a platform? That's something one needs to distinguish, right? Now, I've never been a fan of IPOs in general because of two reasons. Most IPOs, especially in this market, are either it's an OFS, right, which is an offer for sale, which is basically a private equity firm or what I would call a reasonably sophisticated investor getting out, or the professional or the promoters themselves getting out, right? Now, if an investor comes in saying that I have better information about a business than the promoter running the business themselves, I'm sorry to say that that's not the best of approaches towards investing, right? So I'm always wary of IPOs as an asset class itself. Now, however, there are a few and far between companies that one needs to look at closely. Now, if you ask me, Nykaa, Zomato, right? I would always say Nykaa because I think there is a true value in the platform, and I can explain to you in one simple sentence why, right? Concept of a food habit, we'll always consume food. There's no reason as to why we will not consume food, but there are too many variables around the platform. Beauty is one segment where the spend on that segment continues to increase with age. There is no other segment you will come across where as you grow older, your spend on that segment increases. That's the segment you want to be owning as an investor.
And outside of pharma, are there any other themes that you're particularly bullish on at the moment? We've seen a spate of IPOs, talking about IPOs, from cement to, of course, pharma, specialty chem. Emcure just filed their DRHP, for example. That's a 4,500 crore rupee IPO coming up. There are plenty of other tech ones. So IPOs apart, though, thematically, do you see traction building in particular segments?
I think exchanges are a very interesting play, especially exchanges where, for example, let's say the power exchange that we're talking about, right, which is Indian Energy Exchange. Exchanges are also like the business. I would call CAMS also as an exchange because you are a monopolistic business providing the infrastructure for the mutual fund industry in India. Right. Again, AMCs are a very interesting play as well. In a perverse way, that's an exchange because you have huge operating leverage. So the broad theme behind all of this is operating leverage.
Naveen, thanks for joining us. It was a good chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Ladaba. Appreciate this.
Okay.